everybody, and welcome here today. Absolutely chuffed to have with me Mike and Abby here from Face for Business. How are you guys?
Hello, we're good. How are you?
I'm all right, not bad. Yeah, I'm looking, obviously, you just said before, this totally gets dated now if somebody's watching this in December, but yeah, the sun's shining and we're all happy, aren't we? So
everyone's happy, aren't they?
Definitely.
Good. Well, that's it. Well, let's make them happier. You see what my tenuous link there from the weather back to Christmas. That's how this magic works here.
I love it.
Guys, thanks very much for jumping on. I'm going to explain a bit more about the business. We're going to drill into that in a second. I always like to say, just to make sure we keep people on here, give them the elevator pitch if you don't mind. Just describe what Face for Business do in a nutshell.
Okay. So Face for Business is a telephone answering and a managed live chat service, and we support businesses across all sectors with their telephone calls and inbound live chat inquiries. We specialise in excellent customer service and maintaining our unmatched service levels. Now, we predominantly support businesses across the property sector, from smaller independents to some of the biggest, bigger multi-branch franchises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We work really well with this sector, Simon, because we get it. That's the top and bottom of it. We really do. So it may be that you're trying to lift the burden from your staff, offer them a little bit of extra support when it's a busy day in the office, or it could be that you're trying to maximise the return on marketing spend. Whatever it is, we've got it covered.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So just on that then, let's drill into that into a bit more detail. So first of all, solving an everyday issue there that people, many agents are overwhelmed with calls. Yeah. I think just jumping into one that jumped out at me, I asked you guys for stats as well. And this probably works against the perception and probably how some agents might be thinking is 85% of people whose calls are not answered first time will not call back. That, I mean, I know from the way I deal, and whenever I talk to my friends about it, and it's probably only getting worse, isn't it? You have one chance at this, and if you don't get it, you're out of luck, aren't you?
It's a real scary statistic, that, to be fair, and coupled with the fact that people don't bother leaving voicemails anymore, that sort of technology is becoming a bit obsolete. Consumers are really impatient, and it's not just in the property sector, it's across the board. And we, from experience with the clients we work with, that is exactly why businesses use our service, because people are impatient nowadays.
I was about to say, and you know yourself when you're looking for any new kind of service, when you've went through Google and you've done a little bit of research, you're wanting to be answered straight away. You want to kind of tick that mentally off your list. And you're ringing, you're getting frustrated, the phone goes down, right, next one. So we know ourselves through everything we do, from booking a dentist appointment all the way up to booking a valuation for your property.
But here's the thing as well, when you've got no option with a dentist or a doctor, you kind of know that they're busy here. But when you're trying to impress upon them that you're in customer service and their perception is, well, actually, is that how they're going to deal with my, if I put my home on with them, that's how I'm going to be. You're being judged straight away, aren't you?
Exactly. We're just there to capture that call the first time round.
Yeah.
It's crucial, I think. And the feedback from obviously the agents we work with, that's one of the main reasons really why they use our service.
Yeah.
And there must be, you're in one of those things, like I always talk about, actually, with the website providers in the industry, there's let's be honest, there's 1,000,001 different web providers out there, but I always say go with somebody in this industry, because otherwise, you've got that massive bounce effect then, that they understand the unique challenges, they get the language, they get what's going on there. I'm guessing it's going to be a similar thing for you. Yes, there are other call answering companies out there, but they're not going to have that knowledge and skill set that you do, this domain knowledge, as they call it, are they?
Well, I think a lot of providers do things differently to ourselves. I know, especially with us, we use set teams of PAs to answer calls from different industries. So we have one lead PA who works solely with our property clients. She's got a team of 8 PAs who work with her, who predominantly just answer calls for estate and letting agents all day.
And naturally, they then specialise in that sector. They're used to the types of queries that they're receiving, and it just makes a stronger customer service that we can put out to our clients ultimately.
Cool. And I mean, just on further on that, what else is there that you do that's different to other providers?
Mainly, it's from clients' feedback, and we were really chuffed. We've got one special review that really hit the nail on the head for how we want to support our clients. It's the fact that we want to work closely with you. We want to evolve with you. We stay close from the very beginning and throughout. We don't just then leave you once you're on board, and that's really, really important for us. And we're genuinely interested. So, like we were giggling earlier, some of the conversations that have come out, because we are humans and we have lives outside of work. It's like the next conversation you might have, Sue's asking about the grandkids, Mike's asking what holiday you're going on next. And then I've even sent pictures of my Christmas tree to people, because these are the types of conversations that we get into. And it's all about learning more about you. And the more we know about you, and then it filters over to how much we know about the business and how you see our support for you working. And we just find that really important. But it's another way of showing that full transparency. We're only human. So that personal side, even full transparency in the higher service levels, the invoice optimization, and also like the full call recording that we offer for free for every client.
And I'll come back to call recording, because I think that's really important there. But what I've taken from what you were just talking about there is, you're not just a cold tech company, are you? This is a real. I mean, if you're going to be talking to people on the phone, you have to have an angle of empathy there, and what we've been talking about is very much on that level.
Yeah, because half the time as well, that the kind of issues that these business people are facing and things that stop them from being able to answer all those calls, and that's why they're seeking support, are the things like, people are off because they need childcare, or they're on annual leave, so that leads you to the conversation about the holiday. All these things just make up the bigger picture. So that's why it's very easy to get into these normal conversations with people.
I was really when we opened in my previous existence a business over in Australia, and they do prospecting calls really fantastically over there. And one guy who'd been at the top of the game in a estate agency for 20 years, he was kind enough to allow us to sit in there for 2 hours and listen to his approach. And this guy brought in, what offices do here in the UK. He did himself and his small team. And I went in there thinking, oh God, we're going to hear such clever, scripting. He's got all of these tricks of the trade in there. And you know what he did? First of all, he didn't really have technology, but for each person, he just made the most, the most important of notes that obviously sparked that conversation off the very next time that he had. And he put that down to being his secret sauce, of course, being able to obviously straight away when you get somebody on the call the other day, you're able to make that connection with them. They know they've spoken to you before. And that's what it's like in this day and age where we're hit by so many different, like people trying to talk to us digitally on the phone, or, on every level, isn't it? It sounds you're almost, you've got that same secret sauce approach.
Yeah. It's just the human conversation, ultimately, and that's what we want to get into with people, so they know that we're just normal people, and ultimately we just want to help.
Cool, and that's really good to know. On the call recording side, I'm interested on that. So clearly, anyone hearing that will think about straight away on a couple of levels. Well, first of all, there's the transparency element if they're using it as you would be an external company to them. Secondly, there's a training angle there as well. I actually, sorry, just to float a third one in there. And then there's the compliance point of view, isn't it? That it's backed up, everything has been recorded. So just talk me through how that works in reality. Do they have to have special handsets, or is this all done digitally? So, and how do your clients use those call recordings, I guess?
Okay. So firstly, they don't need anything at their side. Once the call's diverted to us and we answer the call, every single phone call that we handle is recorded. Okay. They don't have to request the call. It's there on the portal, on the web portal and the mobile app as soon as that phone goes down.
Yeah, we don't gatekeep it.
It's there. And to be fair, we've offered that ever since we started trading. That level of transparency it's imperative, really. So our clients don't just hope we're doing a good job for them. They know we're doing a good job because they can listen to the calls, listen to how the PAs are engaging with the callers, and listen to how that inquiry was dealt with. So every message that we take, it's sent via email. Okay, so the clients will get a breakdown of the message, all the details of the message, for example, which is sent via email. They also get a notification via our mobile app, which when they go into the app, there's the message, the whole content of the message, and a little button that says listen now. They click on listen now and the conversation starts playing. And it's a tool really for our clients to monitor our performance and how we're performing for them. And it just takes that barrier down that they don't have to hope that we're doing a good job because they can physically see it.
Yeah,
exactly. And coupled with that as well, Simon, we've got our feedback function within the app. So for every call, there's a happy face and a not so happy face. Happy face, the client thinks we've done a really good job on that call. We've answered a query in a way that they would, or we've done something different that really stands out. They let us know. our PAs and our team leaders, and the lead PAs will then share that with the office in the hope to be able to replicate that across more calls and ultimately develop their service in the way that they want it developing.
Yeah, we're hitting the nail on the head for that one. Yeah, and it's great to know.
That's really clever, isn't it? So a really quick, simple, because you can overcomplicate those feedback. Well, anyone will feel familiar with that, and I can see how, that gets a great degree of traction, people taking it up, and does have a as you call it yourself, the feedback function. That's what it's there for, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. And obviously the opposite side to that is the not so happy face. It's for development feedback. So if a call never went as well as it should have, or for whatever reason, that is sent directly to our team leaders, who will then go and approach the subject. They'll find out what's gone on and find out how they can improve this. And we have a 4-hour SLA with our clients to provide a resolution, which I think from feedback from our clients, it's great. It's we're here, we're listening to the problems, and we're putting things right for them as well.
They wouldn't. Most of these, I mean, what I take from that again is that most of these businesses who, let's face it, some people will feel fairly nervous. I know before we first went down this route, we were, and then actually, you'd never go back to it, because what I found out, and I know what many agents think about, is that you're actually getting a better level of transparency, service, reportability than you do often in your own staff. Because most agents, let's be honest, don't have this technology set up in their own, unless they've spent a huge amount of money and then they've still got to put it into practice. So by doing this, they have a higher level of, again, transparency and auditability to make sure customer satisfaction is being met, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely. And you don't have to jump through hoops to get there to give that feedback. Like you say, it's readily available with the call recording.
And I guess what it does is, as well, is when inevitably in any business, when somebody gets some bad feedback, when there is a complaint done, often businesses can really struggle, because they, yes, you want to believe the best in your team and your staff and all that stuff, but there's always got to be that bit of a question there, has somebody dropped the ball on one occasion there? And so you never really know how to deal, how strongly or anything else there. Whereas with a service like yours, it's absolutely clear and simple there. If a member of the public has themselves overstepped the mark, as will so often happen there, then it's clear, and you can be much more robust, can't you, in terms of the way that you deal with somebody on that basis?
Certainly. Definitely.
Okay. So how else do you offer that transparency to your clients then? So they have, did you say that there's an app and everything else that you have?
Yeah, so the app's obviously, everyone gets access to the app. Even during the free trial period, we give them full access to the service. To if they were to be a paying customer of ourselves, they get that same service during the free trial. So back to the transparency side, we have obviously touched on the call recording, which we do encourage everyone to use. But the optimization side, the invoice optimization, is something that we, it shows that we're customer focused. That's the top and bottom of it. Okay. So the clients are always on the most cost effective tariff for themselves.
So this is like where I've heard with some businesses that, am I getting this right? So you will be proactive and go back to them to highlight the best deal, or just like some of the phone companies, I think, said, look, you're not actually using, enough data or whatever else here. So rather than pay the top whack, we're going to put you on that. And that gives a real peace of mind. Is that the similar kind of thing you're talking about here?
It's exactly what it is. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. So that's done automatically every single month by our accounts team. On the invoice as well, we show the optimization. So we say, we've moved you from this plan to this plan because of this. And here's a saving you've saved by doing that.
It's like a breakdown, isn't it?
It is, and we know that businesses have busier months, quieter months, and the invoice does, naturally fluctuate. So our costings do fluctuate with that. And to be honest with you, it takes the headache away of the customer having to worry whether they're on the best tariff and giving us a call saying, "Hi, Mike, can you pop us onto the 100-minute plan, or can you do this? Can you do that?" Because we do it for them.
And you're watching their back, aren't you? You're watching their back. And
that's, totally. But ultimately, people seeking a telephone answering service are wanting to get rid of another headache somehow. So that's another way that we can get rid of another headache, by doing that for you. And by then, you can trust us that we are going to put you on the most cost-effective price plan. And you just, ultimately, you charge for your usage and nothing more.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a really nice. I can understand why people would feel very comfortable with that kind of arrangement, rather than that. I mean, actually, I'm just thinking about it. If more companies did what you do, there'd be no need for Kerfuffle, actually, because I'm not sure I should be shouting about this, but actually, that's true.
Don't be telling everyone.
People do, that's why they kind of, well, you get into a business plan, you might have a gut feel you're paying too much, but who has the time and the energy to go back over it?
Yeah.
If they know that you've got that thought process to look after them, and here's, look, I mean, you're doing it for the right reason, aren't you? They're going to probably stay with you for a lot longer period of time.
That's what we found. We find that just by offering that transparency, the optimization, and everything that goes with it, it leads for long-term partnerships. That's usually what happens.
Cool. And Abby, or both of you, but Abby, how telephone answering, a telephone service can mean many different things, can't it?
Yeah.
How far can you go to be an extension within someone's business? I mean, is this a conversation that you have with the agent, and then what would you say to them in terms of how much can you do?
So it's ultimately all dependent on the client, and it really isn't one size fits all at all. We don't assume, somebody comes with an inquiry from a certain sector. We don't assume what they're looking for. We ask the right questions, and again, get to know them so we can work closely with them. In these conversations, we do fine tune how we're going to support them. So, for example, the support can be anything from a switchboard all the way up to booking appointments on their front-facing diary. But again, it's down to the client's requirements ultimately. And similarly with the divert, the client always has full control of their divert, but we can hold the client's hand and do that for how many times have we been on phone calls, Zoom, sorting people's portals out so we can help them get the divert set up. Because ultimately, we live and breathe telephone answering service. We're the telephone answering geeks. And our clients often don't know those kind of terminologies to look out for, or the right things to say to make that transition more seamless. And so, like I said, they always have full control over their divert, whether we handle overflow calls up to all of calls, or on some days when people are in team meetings, say if they had a regular team meeting every Wednesday morning, they could just flick that divert on and we can handle all calls and ultimately manage their clients' expectations while they're in those meetings. So like I say, it really, it's a tailored service. It's not one size fits all, but across the full company and all the sectors that we support, there's probably elements of every style of support that you could give there. So we're equipped and experienced for whatever you're looking for ultimately.
We do as much or as little as the agent needs.
Yeah.
That's the top and bottom. If they need full support, we give them that. If they need support in a certain area, we give them that too.
There's one thing that's really important to say is that we don't profess to be the specialists in your sector. We are the customer service specialists. Okay. But what we do, we've got the knowledge and the experience to be able to support you in the right way.
Yeah. Do you specialize? Do you extend that specialism to only taking incoming calls, or do you make outgoing calls for people as well? Do you call it quits on one level and say, look, it's incoming calls that we're the best at?
Yeah, it's incoming calls. Ultimately, what we don't want to do is spread ourselves too thin. As you expand, it always would come at the detriment to something else. What we do is handle those inbound calls excellently, that opportunity capture and that real value add. So they're not, like you say, scrolling through Google or Facebook or Kerfuffle for the next provider. We're making sure that we're capturing that immediately.
And that's key, isn't it? Because otherwise, as well, if you were doing those out there, you could be doing just a watered down version of the agents as well, trying to extend too far in what you're about.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, we focus on the inbound side of things because that's what we're great at.
Yeah,
that's the top and bottom of it.
Yeah, and ultimately the client who comes to us, they are the specialist in their business, how they work and in their sector, and that's kind of the boundary that we like to make clear. We want to support you in the best way, but we don't cross over and give any kind of specialist advice. It stops with the customer service, if that makes sense.
And you spoke about the transparency element there in terms of that optimization around the price, which is great, but I'm going to go a bit sort of Jeremy Paxman, property Paxman here, in just a bit more detail. Just talk us through those prices, how they work. Is it based on an office model? Is it per call model? How does it work exactly just for an estate, at least the estate agency part of your business?
So I'll say this one, so we've got two pricing structures. So you've got the message only, where we would capture the name, the company name, if there was one, a contact number, and a concise but detailed message. Okay. And for that package, you are billed per message. And that's for people who don't want any bells and whistles. They just want that opportunity inbound captured and sent over immediately via email.
Right.
Then you've got your inclusive minutes, and we always giggle because I think it sounds really misleading because we actually bill by the second. But I imagine if the inclusive seconds are it would go on forever, wouldn't it? So the inclusive minutes, again, billed by the second. We don't round up to the nearest 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or minute. It is just per second that the PA is dealing with your caller, and that's for people who want us to maybe share FAQs, book appointments on the front-facing diary, attempt transfers, and also capture a little bit more information and kind of lead that conversation in a different direction. Naturally, when people ring somewhere, they will answer the phone and go, hello, my name is Abby and I want ABC. And, you know, the PA is jotting it all down. But what we can do is ask the right kind of inquiries so that when the agent receives that message, they've already had a few questions answered. So that next call can be
Pre-qualified.
Exactly, pre-qualified,
literally. So those are the two pricing structures. Now, across the board for both, invoice optimization applies. It's not just one or the other. We don't charge any premiums for evenings or weekends, or even the privilege that you may get a call at 7:30 on a Monday night. We find that's really, really important. There's no additional charge for transfers to UK mobiles or landlines. And as well, like I said, we don't round up, we don't add on messages. It is literally just for that usage.
I'll tell you where it's coming from to me, Amy. It's Abby, sorry. It's making me think, as simple Simon as I am, that I can understand this model really, really simply.
Yeah.
You've clearly gone out your way there, and rather than as some people, and I understand why they kind of sometimes you fall into complex pricing strategies because you've got to, but actually you've really tried to take all of that out of it, haven't you?
Yeah.
I think as well for the sales and the marketing calls as well, so we know how annoying they are for agents. You know, ringing up trying to swap their internet, the phone lines, the gas.
Kerfuffle on the phone. But you know, don't tell me you've got a blanket ban across there.
No, not a blanket ban as such, but if the agent doesn't want them calls,
of course,
we politely decline them. But the agent's not charged for them calls either. So it's something that we just say, look, we don't take these sorts of calls. It's a client-only line. If you want to visit the website and send an email, feel free, but we will not charge for that call.
That's really good. Yeah, that's really nice. You know, because that I can imagine how that would just rankle with people. Oh, bloody hell! You know, I'm getting paid. I'm being charged for obviously somebody trying to me.
Someone trying to sell me a bouncy castle, which I'm not interested in. Thanks a lot.
Exactly right. And what I like about it there though as well is, so you're blending those. It's not like obviously the phone's the most important there, but you've got that chat service as well. Can we just drill into that into a bit more detail? So that
definitely. So the managed live chat service it's for clients' websites. So you'll see it on people's websites where they've got you know, a chat window, if you will, which they can speak to the members of staff within that business. Now, one thing I must make clear is we don't use any bots, and to be honest with you, they are the bane of my life. I hate them. Honestly, they're not great, to be honest with you. So it's something we don't use, first of all. But what it does,
that stops just on that one though, Mike. That stops that issue where, as happens many times, you know, you can go to a site, you know, a lot of people love using the chat feature, but actually with a bot, it can give you a really, unless it's done right, can't it? You can have a really kind of a bit of a weird conversation going on, and actually you're trying to focus on the fact you're doing customer service well, and it leaves them with entirely the wrong kind of feeling about that.
Definitely. And to be fair, one great bit of advice, now you mentioned that if you are ever on a website and it does have a chat bot, if you type in human or agent, it just bypasses the whole bot. And if there's an agent available, so a bit of advice for you in your
I'm having that. I will be repeating that all week to anyone.
Honestly, it's a godsend.
I didn't know that.
So going back to the live chat, the chats are handled by the same PAs who handle the calls.
Okay.
So even if the client didn't have their calls handled with us and they just wanted the live chat function, the PAs who handle them chats, they deal with estate agents and agents day in, day out. So they kind of know what sort of inquiries are coming, how to deal with certain inquiries, and what sort of resolutions that the agents want on certain inquiries.
And it blends into their traditional web, you know, into their own website as well. So it's not like doesn't feel like a separate plug-on or anything else like that.
I think that's a massively important thing. So Abby is our in-house designer when it comes to the live chat. So she she sits down with the client, she finds out exactly what they want in terms of what colouring, colour palettes they want to follow, whether they want it to stick as part of the website, and ultimately we don't want it to look like a third-party application. We want it to stand out so people use it, but ultimately we want it to look part of their website.
And I'm guessing
such a
having
growing
that
area.
working together works really well, does it? Is that kind of blended service that, because those two do work very closely together, don't they? The chat and the phone should be, the flip sides of the coin, shouldn't they?
It just increases that capture.
Yeah, I mean, we've got clients who use both services, and we've got clients who use one or the other. And it's not like, all right, if you come on board with us, you need to use both. It's whatever will benefit you the most. And it's always quite a fluid service. So if there's any changes that you do want to make at any time, it's not like from the trial we iron things out, we make sure it's spot on, and that's it. You're not changing. It's not like that at all. Things in businesses change all the time. So, we're very open and happy to evolve with you ultimately. So you can have one or the other or both. It's entirely down to the client.
Yeah, it's really good. And you mentioned earlier, Abby, as well, just in terms of those out of normal business hours service. Now that to me strikes me as, just talk us through, what does that mean in practice? So
we have 7-day cover, and we offer extended business hours. So Monday to Friday, we're 8 till 8. Saturdays, we're 9 till 5:30, and Sundays, we're 10 till 4 as well. And quite often you find, your typical estate agent, making a real big generalisation. Everyone is different, but making that generalisation that, a typical estate agent is open Monday to Friday, 9 till 5:30, and potentially reduced hours on a Saturday. We can support that team within their opening hours and also extend their business hours. And we've often extended a branch's hours from over 60%. So making sure, like I say, we're getting that opportunity capture in for them. And like I mentioned before, there's no additional premium there, and you can use our business hours as and when you want. It's fluid. It's entirely down to the client. And then outside of our extended business hours, if somebody did ring at, say, silly o'clock at night with whatever it was that they needed, we set you up with a free personalised voicemail service. Again, the greeting of your choice. You can record it. We can record it for you with your wording. And then whoever calls is invited to leave a message, and that's emailed over instantaneously to you. So that's one option. Or an option that other people sometimes go for is that sometimes they want to, outside of our extended business hours, they would like to point those calls to their on-call mobile that they've had, and that's a structure that they've had in place since time began, and they don't want to kind of change that. And they're quite happy that if somebody called at 2 o'clock in the morning with a flood, that they'll be there to answer that call.
That's really, really good. So blending again how they want to do it. There's not one size fits all element. But does that work as well? Does it work, by the way, over things like bank holidays and over the Christmas period, or do you guys have to take a well-taken break then? How does it work over Christmas and things like that?
We take a bit of a break, don't we, over Christmas? I know we're open. We're closed on bank holidays as a business. But again, going back to what happens with them calls during that time, it's again entirely down to the agent. If the agent's taking a break, then by all means, the calls will go to voicemail. They'll go to an out of hours call, out of hours mobile. Sorry.
So you always have that if you have that email option. That quite often I know that there's some people in these businesses that don't appear to sleep or everything else, but at least rather than it being sat in a voicemail, waiting in the office for somebody to come in the morning, let's be honest, those people will see that email come through, and actually if they, most of them have CRMs that these days that they can reply to, they're more than likely to go back within certainly more than they would have done on a previous setup anyway.
And that's obviously dependent if they themselves are working on that bank holiday. It's the feedback. The feedback has been that they're quite happy for that to be waiting in their inbox for the next business day, if you like.
But this allows you then again that ability to stand out from the crowd, and every agent is looking to be able to compete on service, whatever else, and everything else there. To have outside of working, hours and typical working hours there should be a real benefit, shouldn't it? When pitching for business, sat on someone's there, it isn't, everything stops at 5:30. They can talk about these extended hours, and that's going to. I know I would feel more comfortable working with a business that's going to be there when, let's face it, so many people don't get back till 5:30, 6:30, whatever else.
That's what we find. To be fair, a lot of the agents we support, we get like a spike of calls between 5:30 and 7:30 in the evening, because it is people literally finishing work, getting home, getting the kettle on, and if that's their time when they've got the time to make them contacts with the agents, and having that ability to answer them calls it's a godsend.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
You've given us a fantastic offer for Kerfuffle members. I've got to say, it's the type of offer I absolutely love, and I know the agents do, where you've said, look, we're so confident in what we're about. We're going to give 14 days. I think it's free trial of both the phone and the chat.
Or either of the two, if it's entirely what we.
And no obligation on that. They can test exactly how it works, and then obviously talk to you afterwards in terms of that. So, well, first of all, thank you very much. I do love people who put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. And that's it's a really good period of time to be able to assess whether that works as well. So, hats off to you guys for being for doing that for us.
To be honest, a lot of people know about a lot sooner, even like, the standard trial that we offer. People know quite soon, but it's great just to have that time period. So, for example, in like the onboarding calls, if they say that they want it to work ABC, they can then listen to the call recording and say, actually, XYZ would work better. So, the extension is always great for, ironing out and making sure it runs exactly.
I've got a theory, Abby, though, that one of the things that is in that period, if you identify that they have been, X number of calls that were valuation requests and everything else there, that's quite an easy conversation to have at the end of it, isn't it?
It really is. I think that's probably one of the better conversations you have with people at the end of the trial, because we break down exactly how many calls we answered, the nature of them calls, the average answer time, and so on and so forth. And when we give the client a quotation, they can justify it a lot more than if they just go, you've missed.
Go back to what you did do, but you'll be missing XYZ number of.
Exactly. I think most of the time the clients go, right, okay, well, we didn't know we were missing that, or we didn't know the value of the calls we were missing. So
and let's be honest, you don't know. You might suspect like everything else there. People might just think they're different types of call, but when you can look at it, you can listen to the recording there. And that stat you showed as well. In fact, there were two more stats. I'm going to read these ones out as well, because they did blow my mind. So that first one, as you said, 85% of people whose caller are not answered first time will not call back. Yeah, okay, mind blown on that one. But secondly, this second one as well was 66% of people will switch to a different company or provider due to poor customer service. Now, everybody knows that. I mean, I could talk to my friends, family, and anyone else who, it's one of every round table dinner in a dinner chat, isn't it, with each one of your colleagues, is about somebody who's let you down on that, and that bad news travels fast thing is genuinely true, isn't it?
It's a shame that as well, though, isn't it? Because you find that bad news spreads faster than good news, and it is a real shame that if someone's done an amazing job, it's not necessarily spoke about as much as someone who's done not a not so good job.
But it also reinforces how important that first impression is. And sometimes we are handling inquiries, sometimes more often than not. We get so many new inquiries that we handle across all sectors, and we are literally giving that first impression. That's why it's so important that we know that those fine details of how you want your calls handling, because we're setting the precedent then, aren't we? And if it's not a great experience, then like you say, that's that bad news that travels fast. That's why it's so important to make sure that's a human and not a voicemail or just ringing out.
Well, let's try and keep it bright, and let's not have too much of a go at the British public, because we know what they are like, don't we? It probably does say a lot about us that the bad news does travel, but it's just a fact of life, isn't it? We know on our site that bizarrely, and in fact, TripAdvisor, I've seen it before. The amount that the people focus and go through to is they see those companies that haven't lived up to the standards and how they respond. And actually, we're going to come back to later on. Fantastically, you've got such fantastic reviews yourselves on there already.
Really
going live with it as well. And then the last one again was 25% of people give up after being on hold for too long. And what struck me here was 20 seconds actually doesn't sound like too long to me. In this digital day and age where, well, okay, it's a cheap shot here. You know, if I'm waiting more than 5 minutes for my Just Eat or my delivery, or your Uber taxi to come round the corner, you know, again, that's the thing, isn't it? You're being judged against all these other digital companies that can work like that, and people's minds are elsewhere if they're not dealt with.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I think as well, going like that call answer time, going back to one of our statistics, so 99% of our calls are answered within 3 rings. And that's so useful for businesses and agents who use us as an overflow. So where the call may have rang in branch for say 10, 15 seconds, it rings out unanswered, it comes to ourselves. It means the callers aren't sitting there. The call's been answered as soon as it comes through.
Yeah, they're not losing interest while sat there
and putting the phones on.
No, very good. And what happens after that trial finishes then? So as you said, Abby, you sit down, you go through it with them. What does onboarding look like after that?
So to be honest, most of what we do in the trial is everything to make the transition from a trialist to permanent customer seamless, to be honest. So we've got all of our ducks in the row. So the thick of the onboarding process is the lead up to the trial, with that initial discovery call, learning more about the client, onto the team leader call. So that will be either myself, Mike, or Sue, whoever's dealing with that client. We bring one of the team leaders in. And the reason why we do that is because the team leaders work very, very closely with our PAs. They carry out the training, they do coaching and monitoring. And it's really important that we've almost got all hands on deck. And all the people who possibly can to roll out the training is listening to how the client is wanting their calls to be handled. So we go, like I say, we go through the fine details of how they're wanting the calls to be handled and the resolution. And then we look into the training diary, which we put a lot of time and effort into, because what we don't want to do is just bombard the training diary and ultimately bombard the PAs. We want every client who's being trained out to have the same attention and quality of detail, so that ultimately when the trial begins, that we're handling the calls to the same high standard that we are clients who we've had for 10 years, say. So that's in the training diary, and then we give you an anticipated trial start date. And we always say anticipated because, again, we don't want to rush. And if something's happened or there's meetings that need to be held and trains have to be pushed back, it's very rare, but that's why we just make sure we're getting it right first time as much as we possibly can from the information that we've got. So then it goes into the trial, and again, we stay closely with you. We check in, how is everything running? Is this how you imagined? And if we've got any specific suggestions, like PAs come back and say, you know what, can we maybe change that greeting so it's a bit maybe flows off the tongue a bit easier? All these different things, and we like to see it as a collaboration as well. And we keep close to you within the trial, and then after the trial it's seamless.
Everything stays exactly the same. So obviously the service we provide during a free trial, we don't enhance it at all. You get, regardless of whether you've been a customer with us for 10 years or you're trialing us, the service levels are exactly the same. So they stay the same after the trial, which we find, that again, back to the transparency side of things, you get exactly what we offer. We find as well that I think after the trial, if anything, the service is improved because the PAs get more time with their callers. They get to know the business a bit better. And over the process of a couple of months, we find that, average call lengths come down, and, the resolution to the agent queries are all dealt with with properly, really.
And you get your lead PA. I'm not sure if we mentioned that previously.
So that each industry, if you will, or each sector has a lead PA. So for our estate agent clients, it's a lady called Kerry, and her job is really to work with the agents and with the business owners to ensure the service is running exactly how they want it to. Whether they need to add additional users, remove users, change statuses, whatever it may be, Kerry's on hand to deal with that with the the clients. And we find that businesses do evolve as well, Simon. What's true this week may not be next week. So our service is built to adapt around the client's needs. One other good thing as well, and we find it particularly useful, is the check-ins. So once the clients finish a trial, they choose to stay with us, we would introduce them to the lead PA. And the lead PA would then say, look, how often do you want me to be in contact with you? We'll work as closely as you'll let us, really. So we've got clients who want check-in calls every week, every fortnight, every 6 months, every year. Some don't want them at all, but ultimately them check-in calls are for the benefit of the agents as well. So if something is changing in the in their offices or in the branches, that we're well informed of that, and we can tweak the service to ultimately make it work better for them.
Perfect. And what's the feedback like from the agents? I mean, I'm going to come in a second. I mean, looking at your reviews just on our platform already, I mean, they are literally, I encourage as ever, anyone go to it, go to Face for Business on kerfuffle.com, look at what that feedback is. Absolutely fantastic, some great ones. The customer service element comes back obviously really strongly. Value for money is a really key element. What do you hear in the feedback from the agents directly to yourselves though?
We hear that the service works really well for them. That's why we focus on this, and it works great, and the feedback does speak for itself. We can't put words into our clients' mouths in terms of reviews. We simply ask for an honest review about the service we provide, and ultimately, it's not really down to me and Abby. Being honest, the reviews that are left, they're nothing to do with me and Abby. It's all down to the PAs, and our PAs really do make that difference.
But it makes us grin from ear to ear that, when we see these great reviews, it's like that's everything that we've set out to achieve. So when you see that in their own words, you're thinking, wow, this is class. I'm really chuffed with this.
What I like about that, delivering what you set out to do, but that comes back just one of the first ones we've got on here. They're talking about Louise Hurst from Prime Residential goes on to say, they've always delivered on their original promises, and we know our clients are in the safest of hands. I mean, just that it sounds such a small thing there, isn't it? But so many businesses have the pitch, and then it doesn't deliver in terms of what they believe they were getting, or indeed what are told. So that's such an important thing, isn't it, to deliver on those initial promises, as you just said.
I think our aim is always to over deliver on the promises that we make. We if it's something we can't do or something we're unsure about, we'll be open and honest about it.
Like we'll try and find a solution, or like you say, we'll be honest and say that's actually not a way that we can work. But how about plan B? How can would this still work for you and to achieve the same goals?
Okay. Good stuff. Well, I think I know certainly a lot more about your business. It sounds like a really interesting offering there. And I think, think about where businesses are so often about, they know they're struggling with call volumes. Should they take on the members of staff? Multi-office, how do you make that work unless you're going to have it really well networked together and invest in these systems there? So this ability for you to get in there, and I like that idea that you will certainly be able to do that. They might still have the intention that they'll firmly want to, take on another member of staff at some stage. I can imagine that once they get your service there, they actually say, why would we not have this in part of our kit bag?
Definitely. As much as well as we are, we're all for businesses taking on members of staff, but sometimes that, if you take on a new member of staff, the investment you've got to put into training is huge. If they take time off work or they're off work sick, you're back to square one. And most businesses don't have the redundancy there to go, all right, okay, so they're off sick. We've got another member of staff who can just step in straight away. It doesn't work. We take that headache away from them. Again, if one of our members of staff are off sick, the agent doesn't have to worry about that. That's our problem,
And the other thing is, it's all very well saying take on a member of staff, is where are you getting any decent people from these days anyway, aren't they? Exactly. And trying to find them in the employment markets rock hard, even before you get them up to the speed they need to, as you said, by tapping into your team there.
I think the recruitment side of things is across the board is really hard at the moment. So I was speaking to a gent yesterday, was looking, they're franchising their business. They're looking for recruits, and it's finding the right person, isn't it, to come in and
it's a longer process. It's long and drawn out. It's not a decision often that's made overnight, and that can be tried and tested straight away. And ultimately, even if people are recruiting an additional person to help out with the phone calls, they've often got multiple duties. It's not just the phone calls that they need to be worried about. And also, no one person can answer 2 calls at once and give a good customer service.
No, not yet. We haven't managed. ChatGPT hasn't managed to do that, has it? Otherwise, we're all out.
We're all knackered on it with that.
So let me just summarise again. Let's just go. I think I'm really useful understanding it there. The thing that stand out to me, that full call recording that gives you that, that wonderful transparency, that ability to not guess what the service is, to understand exactly how they're being done. Absolutely core critical point there. The optimized billing, where you're absolutely really transparent, as you said, minute by the minute, it's actually by the second. We do
by the second,
but that's great. And again, really sensible, dare I say it, business friendly, agency friendly there, so they're not getting charged for those unwanted calls and everything else. Doubling down on that by ensuring they are always on the best deal is another lovely angle there. And I think that other angle as well in terms of how far you can just go in terms of the support there. Yes, you can have it as just an automated message, really concise, really clear, and everything else there. But you can obviously go and have more in different elements of the business as well.
Yeah.
Point of view, and then all backed up obviously by the good reviews. And you don't have to take our word for it. You don't have to take my word for it. But you've got this fantastic 2-week offer now for anybody that wants to obviously drop us a line. Please drop any of the Kerfuffle team back. We'll get you in touch with these. Go to get in touch on their website, and we'll put that forward to them. I think I'm absolutely up to speed with you guys now. Abby, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to explain to me again today, and I can look forward to the next conversation where we'll catch up on no doubt what else you're doing.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for having us as well.
Thank you for your time.
Good stuff. Cheers, guys.
You take care.
Bye now.